All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. It's about time. Thank you, everyone, for joining the webinar. We are really, really excited to host our second webinar on electronic shelf labels. This is Madan. I do business development at American Retail Supply and American Retail Technologies. And we are really, really excited for you guys to be over here for our second webinar. It was a great discussion and a webinar in early January. What we had, looking at that success, we wanted to continue on to this one subject, the very relevant subject for retail industry as we see, and has been written by many periodicals and magazines out there, and technologists. So without further any delay, today we'll be talking about the changing face of retail, talking more about what's going on in the retail industry, what's anything new transpiring, what are the trends we see. When we'll talk more about the electronic shelf labels and specifically why we see it's so relevant today, for retail industry to look at different technologies and adopt different technologies, and why ESLs are so going to be critical for success in future, and what's driving that. We'll review what ESLs are and how they work. That we also covered in our first webinar. Then finally, $1 million question: what's the pricing on those, and what's the ROI, return on investment? And Mark has some exciting news to share with you near the end of the webinar. And finally, how can you get going, and how should you get going? So here we have Mark Turner and myself doing the webinar. Mark is going to be leading most of the webinar. Mark Turner has been working with American Retail Supply and since 1981, and he's an expert. He's a real retail store expert, and has set up so many thousands and hundreds of businesses, help them get their stores and packaging, and he's a real expert in the industry. We are so fortunate to have him on our team, and we admire his passion, his courage, and things to do. And he's very excited about new technologies in retail, and ESLs is one of them. So here you go, Mark, for this one.
Well, thank you for the kind words, Madan. I really appreciate it, and can't say enough about Madan and American Retail. I see us doing great things, helping the retailer run their business. So just a real brief introduction, and then we'll get going. I know people on the call know about American Retail Supply. American Retail Technologies helps brings retail technology to the independent retailer. Here are a few of the brands we sell at American Retail Technologies, and we'll be able to help you guys not just with your packaging and your bags and your fixtures, but also with the technical end of it. And we'll be getting more into that in coming days. Here's three divisions. I'll come to three things that American Retail Technologies does. Store automation, which includes ESLs, of course. Also have some really cool people counting things that'll be coming up. Loss prevention, we've been doing that for a long time, but barely scratching the surface. We'll be getting more into loss prevention and point of sale. Point of sale, we've done that since MS-DOS days, but we have a real new great program that'll bring you into this century here. And we'll be having webinars and all of these as time goes on there. So electronic shelf labels, the reason you're here. We saw the need for electronic shelf labels, and so we shopped the industry and really came up with Display Data. They are the leader in electronic shelf labels for a lot of reasons. They're not really set to serve directly the independent retailer, so that's why we partnershiped with them to bring to the independent retailer the electronic shelf labels. good company to work with. I really enjoy their product and working with them. We will be sending you a link if you missed the first webinar, or in case you want to review it. We'll be sending you the link to that. Here it is right here. We kind of went over more detail of what electronic shelf labels are. Here we'll be talking about the reason you need them. So just give you some news. I'm sure you know this on the changing face of retail. It is changing rapidly. Change has always happened. As Madon said, I've been in this industry since '81, and you can imagine seeing a lot of change. Change seems to be happening ever quicker, though, and it's got to be due to technology, don't you think?
Yeah, I think it's been so much is happening with the retail industry in the last decade or 2 decades, I would say. But in the last decade, it's been such a ride for the retail industry overall, and of course for us as well. And see that.
Yeah, it's kind of scary almost, isn't it? I don't know. Every time I open the newspapers, it shows how old I am that I know what a newspaper is. But look at the internet or turn on the radio, you hear about this retail apocalypse. But yeah. I just not convinced on that. Just not convinced. As Mark Twain said, the reports of my death are greatly exaggerated. The reports of the death of brick and mortar retail are greatly exaggerated, as we'll see in the next slide. Sure, stores are going out of business. Well, Pan Am went out of business because they didn't change with the times. Here you'll see that these are the percentage sales that are done in a retail, in a brick and mortar store. And while it's declining, it is still the vast majority are done in the store. And even if a sale's not done in the store, by using electronic shelf labels, you're able to increase the chance that they're going to buy it from you, even if they buy it online. And we'll go more into that later in the presentation here. So don't lose heart. Brick and mortar retail is here to stay.
While this trend is true, and you see that in the previous slide, as Mark pointed out, I would also want to point out that such a trend has been there. I think since when the catalog businesses came into picture as well. It's been a lot of, but the e-commerce has a very different influence. But as Mark pointed out, I think you can still see the majority piece of the business is still going to brick and mortar, and here's the evidence, I think, which Mark is kind of laying out here. Sorry.
That's an excellent point, Madonna. It really is. And the same thing happened with Sears. Is the catalog started it out, but then technology, being the automobile, they went away from catalogs to physical stores. Unfortunately for Sears, they then got stuck in that rut and didn't change. But anyway, talking about brick and mortar retail, these are internet only retailers that have opened stores. These are just a handful of them. So if brick and mortar was dead, why would they open stores? That's what I want to know. So they're growing a lot. I mean, shoot, Amazon is opening stores. Amazon also purchased Whole Foods. And they definitely paid a premium for Whole Foods because of the stores. If they wanted a distribution center, a distribution network, they could have done that for a fraction of the money they paid for Whole Foods. And same with, of course, they're opening stores. So Amazon realizes that brick and mortar is important. So do all these and many other internet-only businesses. But just like anybody else that has gone out of business or is struggling, change. It's all about change. You must change with the times, and electronic shelf labels will help you do that. To my favorite people in history are Benjamin Franklin and Bob Dylan. Little different time frame, a little different philosophy on life, but they just still talk about change. I love that change from Benjamin Franklin. When you're finished changing, you're finished. And of course, the times they are changing. They were in the 60s, I think, and they are now, and they were whenever. I guess it was
that's
a couple hundred years ago that Benjamin Franklin said that.
Yeah, that's so true. In any era, we have heard Mark, and I really admire that. When Mark, you pointed out in your previous slide about the internet-only retailers, it's such a strong trend we are seeing, not only with the big retailers, but also with the very small retailers. We have seen in our business, people who have started websites and small websites enough, they are going into retail, opening up pop-up stores and so on and so forth, and then going into mainstream from there. It's a real trend, and I think something to be cognizant of, but also something to get adapt to really win in this trend.
Oh, yep, I agree. So you see a Radio Shack, you see people going out of business, and that's kind of scary. But the retailers of the future, like it says there, you must adapt. Not just retailers, but since that's the business we're in order to survive in this ever-competitive marketplace, adaptation is important. And changing with the times, you always have to, even though it's hard, change is necessary. And here we see some of the cool retail technologies I've seen out there. Checkpoint has this RFID robot that does inventory. Omni-channel retail, so you can have your same stuff on many platforms. Alibaba has that really cool in-store navigation. That's kind of a cool thing. And of course, everyone's heard of the smart mirrors, this people counting that's really cool. Has some great potential. And then Checkpoint has this interactive RFID system, but ESLs is of course what we're talking about here. And ESLs are the future of in-store signage. I heard that Fred Meyer is even looking at building those into their shelf edge, which is interesting.
It is. If you look at that slide, the previous slide, Mark, all these new technologies are intriguing, and all of these new technologies fit one way or the other. But I think for us, when we look at the overall landscape, and one of the pillars which we have been hearing it to the experts, and which we have been talking with some of our experts, retail experts in the industry, we do see electronic shelf labels as a very, very critical part. And the reason for that is, if you think about it, that's one piece of hardware which is really on each and every item, depending upon what store it is. And that has a capability of not only relaying the information, but also, depending upon the consumer walking in, getting the information of what they might be looking for, what they might have browsed for, and giving them the relevant information, which is so difficult today with the infrastructure you have in a brick and mortar, and that's so relevant in online shopping style campaigns. The style of shopping is so different nowadays. So I think that piece of hardware, one piece of electronic shelf label, is so intriguing, and so much the equipment which can transfer information between the consumer and the product itself.
Yes. So here we're going to get into your reasons. So little introduction there, but we're getting in our reasons, but truth in advertising. I want to have this disclaimer here. As you'll see, electronic shelf labels have many, many different things they can do. Very powerful. However, just implementing some of these things will cost you money. The implementation cost is the only ongoing cost with some of the features we're going to talk about here. So if there's particular features that are interested that you're interested in, you know you're going to be interested in these features, please discuss those with us. We'll have many questions. We're not going to say, oh, you want to buy it? Okay, here, we'll sell it to you. We're going to have a lot of questions as part of the selling process. Because selling these isn't like selling you a bag. It's an ongoing relationship that we have, a partnership of sorts with these labels. I just want to let you know that to start with. So 5 easy reasons that you need electronic shelf labels in your store. Here we go. The biggest reason that the major retailers have given when asked why they have gone with electronic shelf labels is saving money. So we'll see that we have a lot of things, but that's my understanding. Madonna, is your understanding that saving money is why most people go to them?
Yeah. I think one of the many reasons is saving time and money has been critical as the margins has been squeezing because of the online channels coming into play and few other things. I think saving time and money has been becoming even more critical for process improvement.
Very good. And everyone likes to save money, especially when there's other benefits. Manual pricing, face it, is expensive. 80% of stores, the vast majority of stores, spend at least 1% of gross sales on pricing. That's just amazing. This is according to a study by an outfit called Planet Retail. We can get you a copy of this study. On average, 3% of gross sales were spent on pricing. So gosh, you do $1 million, what's that? $30,000. That's a lot of money. And you're getting substandard performance, which we can talk about later. So I just thought this was an interesting chart here. Plus, if you see this lady right here, she is so focused on what she's doing, she's not taking care of the customers. And if I wanted to get that little squirrel or whatever that thing is down there, couldn't do it because she's blocking that. So not only are you spending more money, you're not serving the customer as well. Don't just think about the labor. There's also the expense, and I know this because partly how I make my living. There's the expense of the labels, the printers, of course, the time, the thermal transfer ribbon, the software, all these other expenses that you have by printing paper labels or shelf tags or price gun labels or any of that stuff. And you also save the environment. Not a big deal. A few labels here and there, but hey, everything counts. When you don't print a shelf label and throw it away, you're not throwing away money and you're not putting more in the dump there. So saving time, money is definitely a reason to go to electronic shelf labels. Probably one of the, I hate to say one of the main reasons, but leveraging technology is that we are 2019, hard to fathom for old people like me, but you're able to leverage technology to your advantage with electronic shelf labels. Don't know about you, but I've talked to a lot of my my good customers that say so many people pull out their cell phone. I dare to say that the cell phone has changed things more than PCs, because of course it's a smartphone, I should say. And so it's prevalent. I don't know if anyone here at the store has seen people pull out a phone, but according to Retail Drive, another good source to look at, you can see it for yourself. The majority of people use phone in the store, and we can have a whole webinar on this subject, but every one of these reasons people use phones, you can use to your advantage if you have electronic shelf labels. So they're here to stay, as cell phones are, and might as well use them to your advantage and not your disadvantage. Another part of leveraging technology is the information, all this stuff you can have on there. You can have on the electronic shelf labels the sale price, competitor's price, a live competitor's price. If they change their price, it's going to change on the label. So if people pull them up on the phone, oh, they're right. Ratings, we'll talk more about ratings later. All this detailed information and that QR code, we'll talk about that later. You can use that for a lot of cool stuff there. Reviews. I just ask everyone here, ask yourself these 3 questions. When you're buying things on the internet, assuming you do you look at reviews? And do they have any power? Do they have any influence on your purchasing decision? Do you see them in brick and mortar stores very often? Do you see live reviews very often? And if you had reviews, up-to-date live reviews in your store, might that influence people's buying decision? Just some questions there. Found this interesting at Inc.com that 84, we all know how important word of mouth is. So their friends they're saying that this is a great store, you got to go to this store, you got to buy this product in this store. Well, 84%, the vast majority of people trust online reviews as much as their friends. I don't know what that says about what they think of their friends, but you might as well use the power of reviews, online reviews in your store. And with electronic shelf labels, you can do that. Showrooming. That's a relatively new term. I think it was 2014, where people pull out their phone and check the price on their phone. Well, you can help lower the influence of showrooming and even take advantage of showrooming by having electronic shelf labels. You can have, as I said, detailed information, competitor's price. Don't dread showrooming anymore. Be happy when somebody pulls out their phone. Okay. Information. A good friend of mine said something like, people know more but understand less. And I think that has to do with the amount of information out there these days. There is so much information, but people need information. For things we sell, I got asked for things that I never got asked about 20 years ago. And I think that's because people are information hungry. And with electronic shelf labels, you can provide that information. And it can be correct, updated information that once it's set up, very little time of your, very little effort, I should say, to get that information on the label. So here we can show nutritional content. Inventory on hand, that's really, I don't know if you can see that, but it shows what sizes of these shoes they have on hand for that particular shoe. And of course, as we talked about before, very detailed information about that product. So in the information age, providing information, correct, detailed, up-to-date information is key. People demand that. Like it or not, they demand it. Now, this is something that is also really important for the marketing people out there, is brand recognition. Forgot how many millions Nike spends just at college campuses, but these brands that you sell, they spend millions and millions of dollars getting their logo out there. Well, if you don't have their logo on your shelf label, you're not fully taking advantage of them spending money to get their logo out there. You might as well take advantage of that. You do have some customers, you guys might want to look at that have their brands pay for their bags. They put their brands on the backside of the bag and they get co-op dollars to pay for that. Well, I haven't anyone have co-op dollars pay for electronic shelf labels, but it might be worth checking into, because if whoever you buy Nike from might be able to get you some co-op dollars to have Nike displayed on the electronic shelf label. But even if they don't, even if you can't get co-op dollars, co-op advertising dollars to pay for the electronic shelf labels, you're taking advantage of them spending money by having their logo on your shelf. And that's going to be hard to do with paper labels. Okay, here's another really important thing about having electronic shelf labels is trust. It's all about trust. Trust is reliability. Electronic shelf labels can help you more reliable. Consistency, integrity, commitment, and sincerity. I like that. That's all trust. And the consistency is what's really important here. And electronic shelf labels can have you do that. How, you ask? Well, here it shows kind of some embarrassing things where you have the wrong price on by the wrong product. Here we have our $40 Nutella and our $1 Gucci. That can be very embarrassing and costly. Electronic shelf labels can help that. The Planet Retail, interesting, almost 1 in 5 shoppers, if once you have a wrong price on the shelf compared to what rings up for it, according to Planet Retail, almost 1 in 5 aren't going to trust you anymore. Can't shop with confidence, I should say. That's pretty shocking. And even if it's off by 10 cents, it doesn't matter. You still are going to lose some trust. And trust is so important, even more so these days than others. Well, I guess trust has always been important. But you can have the same price on the register as on the shelf edge. You change price in the register. If you have your register hooked with your labels, it's going to change on the shelf edge. You don't have to worry about doing that. And the same with the website. If you have a website, it's going to be the same. Imagine the embarrassing if they pull up your website and that's a different price than it's on the shelf edge and a different price that's on the register.
And this is kind of a very, very recent trend. We were at the NRF this year. It's one of the shows, happens in New York, National Retail Federation, and a theme which we have been looking at and been following is omni-channel pricing, which means if you are going to have your products being sold through the store, through website, or through your app, wherever or anywhere you're selling, the consistency in having the same pricing and updating the pricing in matter of not days but in matter of minutes has been so critical and be in sync with that. So this is a real theme happening in the market right now. Why this has become so important.
Yeah, I have seen that, and it's not just reducing prices, it's raising prices. You don't have time to raise your prices because of other constraints. You don't have the infrastructure to raise your prices. You're able to adjust your prices on a real regular basis, maybe even multiple times a week. Just on a real regular basis, you can update your prices to stay consistent. That's what they do on the internet. And so why not be able to do that in the store? With electronic shelf labels, you can do that. Be a real challenge with regular with paper labels.
That's an excellent point, Mark. I think I've heard it from so many of our customers who have come across and have had some discussions that they have sometimes being a single store operator or a store manager, the time allocation, you are working on your A, B, and C items, which means A are the top selling and B are the not so top selling. But sometimes you don't have time or you don't have a labor enough for you to make those changes, and it can be pending for like weeks. What are you really doing is you are really having your margin to be, you're not capturing that margin, you're leaving it on the table if you have to increase prices on those, or you're not selling more if you have to drop the prices on those. So it's just such an important piece from consistency in pricing from merchant perspective that we have also heard quite a bit. And I think electronic shelf labels is one of an easy solution that you can click at a click of a button. You can update your tens or hundreds or thousands of labels depending upon your store.
Yeah, I forgot how quickly they change, but 50,000 labels changed in under 30 seconds, something like that.
That's staggering.
Yeah, it is. It's crazy. And has this ever happened to anybody that's listening here? Is where the amount on the shelf isn't the same as the amount that was rung up for? And even if it's 10 cents, people will remember that. And here, not only is she upset, these other people are looking like, oh, what the heck she's talking about? And that lady's like, oh, not her again. And the poor clerk, he has nothing to do with it. So you don't have to worry about it if you have electronic shelf labels. So consistency in pricing is definitely a reason that you need electronic shelf labels. Personally, being that I'm a sales and marketing guy, the promotions are so exciting with electronic shelf labels. You can have personalized and unique promotions. I'm going to go over a few of the options. There are so many more options that you can have, but I'm going to go through a few of the ideas you can do with electronic shelf labels, most of which would be really hard with paper labels. So as we had talked about before, showing a competitor's price, you can have the QR code. And I just found out, I don't know if you know, is in some of the latest, I think it was the latest iOS release, you don't need to pull up a QR app anymore. You just point your camera at that. So you can have it pull up a coupon in the store. Scan this for a 10-cent off per pound off the bell peppers or whatever. And then you'll be able to collect that data and see who's doing that. If you remember in that other slide, I think it was 54% of people used in-store coupons. Well, guess what? You can do in-store online coupons that they actually generate in the store itself. Flash sales. Flash sales are a relatively new thing. Flash sale, I would look at it as a sale for a short period of time or on a scheduled. You could have a scheduled flash. I have a customer, a real successful customer that has a kitchen shop. Tuesday is his slowest day. He sells coffee, doesn't hardly make anything on coffee. So he decided to, on Tuesday, have his coffee at 10% off. He's not making any money on coffee, so why not have 10% less than nothing? And it gets people in the store. It's been very effective for him. So, but flash sales, according to BigCommerce.com, another great website to look at, a flash sale is a discount offered by an e-commerce store for a short period of time. Well, guess what? Electronic shelf labels, because their immediacy, brings the flash sale comes to Main Street. So they're not limited. We can cross out that e-commerce store, and a flash sale is a discount or promotion offered by a store for a short period of time. And you could have it work on, as we talked before, consistency of pricing. You could have that work on your website too. So flash sales are another great promotional thing. Now we're going to watch this short video here talking about Bluetooth communication. It's an advanced feature of electronic shelf labels, so I hope you enjoy it.
ABI research says Bluetooth beacons are emerging as a major technology revolution. A revolution that's the missing link between consumers and smart next-generation technology, including in-store locationing. Our Aura 29 electronic shelf label provides this link, as well as allowing you to change price, offers, inventory data and much more on any label anywhere in seconds. It includes an integrated Bluetooth low-energy beacon. So using your app, that will enroll shoppers onto your loyalty program, you can recognize and connect with them via their smartphones to present engaging promotions at the shelf edge, where over 80% of purchasing decisions are still made. Timely, location-based promotions for the items they are looking at, promotions that are personalized to what shoppers have bought before, promotions that might relate to items on their in-app shopping list, promotions that reward loyalty, a birthday or anniversary of visits, and promotions to work across any smartphone, including Apple devices. The messages simply pop up on their screens, so, unlike with NFC readers, your customers don't need to make an effort to get close to the beacons. We're the only electronic label provider to include an integrated Bluetooth option and to allow you to conveniently monitor and maintain both your labels and beacons across our system. A system that needs minimal hardware, so it's easy and costs less to install, use and maintain. And now, with the added power of Bluetooth, you can not only present accurate pricing and inventory information, you can catch shoppers' eyes with personalized offers that surprise, delight and reward them. With 58% of shoppers buying more on promotion, you can connect with customers in fresh, super agile, compelling and interesting ways. It's time to price this way.
Okay, well, thanks for watching that video. Hope you got some good information, some more good information there on electronic shelf labels. So with electronic shelf labels, not only are you able to do all this neat stuff that we talked about, you can save money too. You can save time and money too with electronic shelf labels. So don't forget that. You can have all these great features. It's going to take a while. You're not going to save money from day one. I'm not going to joke you there. But you can save money. The ROI, I don't know. I've seen 2 to 3 years. Madan, have you? What have you found on that there?
Yeah. Actually, that's a very conservative and a good estimate, Mark. I think we've been hearing anywhere between 1 to 3 years, depending upon how much do you deploy and depending upon what kind of store you're running. You know, it's a grocery or a department store you're looking at, or an apparel store or a jewelry store you're looking at. We've seen all different kinds of data out there, and also I think it also depends upon, actually very importantly, the disclaimer, Mark, you had how tight integrations you would want to go with your systems. It depends upon that kind of information, because you can leverage it not only from a cost perspective, saving money and time. We see a huge benefit actually coming out, affecting your top line. And I think as you, Mark, I think you have a couple of slides down, you will see some big names out there who are adopting this technology. I think a lot of them are adopting this because of the saving the time and the money, as rightly pointed out over here. But I think they are now have started to realize how easily they can use this information by their product managers or store managers, or in small businesses, store owners case, and how easily they can change information on their labels and reap the benefits of those.
Yes. So just in review, you can save time and money, increase your ability to leverage technology, that information thing, consistency, and the promotions. So those are the 5 reasons I came up with. Madan had approached me, wanted me to do a webinar with 5 reasons people need retailers, and I thought, once I looked into it, I thought, wow, this is going to be really tough to pick only 5 reasons, because there's a lot of them. But these are the 5 reasons I came up with. Your reason might be somewhere else there. So now we have a lot of questions on electronic shelf labels, and I'm sure you guys have some. We'll try to, real briefly here, we have 20 minutes, go over some of the questions, some of the frequent questions that we have for electronic shelf labels. So here is an overview of how display data is electronic shelf labels work. First of all, you have the software, very powerful software, incredibly powerful software. The software talks to what's called a communicator. The communicator could also be called a router, small little thing. If you have multiple stores, the software only needs to be in one location, and then it can talk to the communicator. And over just an internet connection, and then the communicator using low frequency Wi-Fi talks to the labels. And most people here would need only one communicator per store. As you see, 50,000 square feet, 200,000 displays. You can will control the labels. And the display data labels, we'll talk about it later, are the best label out there. Really bright, easy to see. Display data, and they have some good facts behind it, is the lowest total cost of ownership of any electronic shelf labels. So if you're looking at electronic shelf labels, do shop them. I encourage you looking at different options, but display data has the best label and the lowest total cost of ownership. Maybe not the lowest cost, but the lowest total cost of ownership. That's the same, not the same thing necessarily. Anyway, 3 different kinds of labels. We have our Chroma series. Those come in red, black, and white, or yellow, black, and white. And it's either the red or the yellow. You can't have the label be red and then next day yellow. It's either the red or the label. And then we have our Aura series that's a black and white label. Again, nice and bright, easy to read labels. The Chroma comes in a bunch of sizes, big range of sizes, 9 sizes, from little tiny to great big. And then there's the Chroma series of labels there, which are the black and white labels. That Bluetooth label that you saw in the video was a Chroma series of labels there. And I don't know if anyone here has seen these labels like a Kohl's where they're kind of hard to read. Depends on the light, depends if you're right in front of them. Well, that's the LED display. Not only is it hard to read, it's very limited of what you can put on there, plus really high battery consumption. And we use electrophoretic displays, which are great technology, very little battery consumption, and a good display for a good technology for this usage.
So this electrophoretic technology is what's e-ink technology is very similar to that one. What if you guys have used the Kindle, the Amazon Kindle, I think that's the technology they've been using on their book readers. You're sitting nice and tight in your bed, and during the nighttime you can read it very, very perfectly, or you're in the bright sunshine day sitting lying down on a lush garden and reading during the daytime, you can read it pretty well. So the idea behind that one was one of the pushbacks when this technology kind of started gaining grounds in late 90s, early 2000s was are they easily visible? Can they be easily visible whether I'm viewing it from different angles, especially because the consumers or the walk are going to be walking from all different directions. So that's why this technology is such an important piece and such an important piece of hardware to go with display data.
And here I'm not going to read these to you. No, everyone here can read, and we can get you this information, but this is, if you're going to get electronic shelf labels, do your research, please do your homework. But here are many reasons why display data is the best label to go with. And these are some of the reasons that we chose to go with display data. Don't forget, we have been serving the independent retailer for over 40 years, and your labels will take care of you. We serve the customer. That's our job. And we'll help support you. You buy the labels from us. We're not going to sell it to you and walk away. We help you there because we can't afford not to. We don't want to lose your trust for the other business you have from us. Okay, now pricing that everybody wants. Madan said $1 million question, but I promise they're not $1 million. So there's 4 parts to the pricing, and we'll go over those, I promise. We have the labels themselves, and then we have services, which would include training, integration, and other things. Licensing of the labels themselves. And then we do need to run this in a Windows Server environment. So some of you might have a server that true Windows Server, not a desktop, but a true Windows Server. Then you wouldn't need that, but we can help you very low cost with a Windows Server. And so here's the pricing for the most popular labels there. It's the price per label. This is list price. We are offering some deals. We'll certainly get you a quote. Just let us know what you want and we'll get you a quote. So, but that gives you an idea of the labels, not extremely expensive. And then here is for the services and the licensing. Here's the here are the pricing. The $750, that'll buy you training. You'll have a very good idea how to use your labels. If you want it integrated with your point of sale, we just really need to get more details, but we can integrate it with your point of sale. Never found a point of sale that they can't be integrated with if you choose to do that. So on the licenses, you do need a license for the labels. It's $230 for up to 500 labels, and then just under 50 cents per label. There, what's that, 4 cents, half a cent a day? I don't know. It's not very much, and this is per year. You have a location license. Now, Madan, is that a location or is that a communicator license? Do you know?
Oh, that's a location license, yeah. And depending upon the square footage, right? One communicator actually can cover, I believe, if I'm not wrong, around 50,000 square feet.
Right.
And so, yeah.
200,000 labels. So probably big enough for a lot of the people on the call there. And then we have a maintenance per label, very little expense. And then the server hosting I talked about, we need to quote you on that. It's very affordable to have it if you don't have a Windows server in your environment there. So it gives you an idea on the pricing. We'll, of course, provide a quote for you there. And then this is the exciting news, $250 off your order of ESLs with a $3,000 minimum. And then we also have some exciting news where you can get $100 of the label holders. There's a whole bunch of different kinds of label holders for this, for these to hold it on your shelf edge, on your bananas, your banana bin. But look at that. There's a banana bin and those are apples. So here's some of the big big retailers you've heard about that use display data labels. There's more and more every day. This is just a short list. Home Depot, I've happened to see these in my Home Depot. They're just starting to roll it out. Here's some of the reasons why they chose to go with electronic shelf labels and why they chose display data as labels. Okay, we're wrapping it up here a little bit early. If you would want a one-on-one presentation for your store, for your situation, just let us know. We'll be providing you with a link to register, or you can just give us a call and set up a time. We can spend about a half hour. If you need more time or less time, we can work with you there. But we're certainly willing and able and wanting to do one-on-one webinars if you want to call more people in. So just let us know and we'd be happy to do that for you.
Yeah, I think this is since this is such a new piece of technology and a new arena for and we understand that not all of your team members are able to join us today for this webinar, but I think this is an investment. This is investments of time and money, and what returns as well related to this one. So I think we would love to do one-on-one presentation to you or your team together, because every business, every type of store is unique, and there are different opportunities in different areas.
So now we'll have a question and answer time if anybody has any questions here. Oh, here's a good question. It's asking how many labels people start with. Oh, I have 50,000 SKUs, so I want to buy 50,000 labels. Well, you're probably not going to do that to start. As interesting as it sounds, the average sale we've done is somewhere between 10 and 100 labels, 100 being on the high side, to just start with. Get your feet wet, get the labels talking, seeing what they can do before you jump forward. And a similar thing would be if you have them communicate with your point of sale. Eventually, that's probably a good idea, but just start out. Why? Why not just see how they're working for you, see if they're the features and that type of thing. Hope that makes sense.
Yeah, Mark, a related question I have over here is, do I have to update my entire POS software in order to use ESLs?
That's a good question. No, you certainly don't. We haven't found a point of sale software that doesn't work with the software. So you certainly don't have to update it. We need to get some more details. We have a form you can fill out to help us decide the cost, but no, don't need to update your point of sale.
Here's another interesting one, Mark. I think I see ESL seems to need time invested into the individual item label if you're going to use them to their full capacity. How is the time I'm spending on designing these ESLs compared to the time I spend on printing and labeling items with a gun, with a pricing gun?
Yeah, that's a really good question. It's like many other technologies, for example, point of sale. Originally, point of sale is going to take more time. I mean, there's no doubt that having a point of sale system and putting all your data in there takes time originally. So the time saved with electronic shelf labels is that reverse bell curve, where you're going to spend more time initially doing that, setting this all up. But then it's going to save you an immense amount of time once you have that communication going. For example, if this label is going to be for that camera, and you have that camera talking to the vendor's website, the vendor updates their website, it updates the label. So you're going to spend more time to start with, I imagine, but the time savings is going to be immense.
And remember, I think, Mark, as to your earlier points, we do help you set up in the beginning to kind of get the ball rolling. And I think it's the initial designs and few other things which we help you on all of that to really get you acquainted with the software. But it's like what Mark's telling, like, you're not going to do day-to-day, everyday updates or every week updates of your labels and printing them and putting them up there, and imagine the time you're spending on that particular Mark, I have another one here, an interesting one. How can you secure ESLs from being stolen? If ESLs are mobile, which can be a plus, is there a way to secure ESLs to shelves and displays without having to pay customizing fees?
That's a really good question. There are some. That's a really good question. That's a concern I've had. I mean, my original thought was, who would want to steal that electronic shelf label? Well, you know, the kids, they might say, oh, that's cool, I could get this working. Or I've had people that have shoe stores that somebody steals that size 18 double X or whatever the heck, yeah, size shoes, double D. There are some of the electronic shelf label holders that are available that lock to the, you need a special key to get them off. And there's other ways to attach them if that particular electronic shelf label holder doesn't work, using a zip tie to attach them to the back. There's this little holder there so there are numerous ways to attach them so somebody doesn't walk out the door with them.
Mark, this is a swinger, actually, I think. And the question is, if technology is constantly changing, how can I be sure that ESLs are the right direction to go, especially since it's such a large financial investment to make?
Yeah, if I could read the future, I would. I don't know. I can't say I wouldn't be doing this because love my job here. It's hard to say where technology is going to go, but if you don't make the jump, you're never going to go there. You have to change it with technology. I imagine some people here bought a cell phone before smartphones came out, and bought the early generation smartphones before the phones before the iPhone 10 or whatever came out. So when you're buying technology, you don't want to buy the way outdated one. You want to buy what's the most current one, because that's going to not be outdated as quickly. So I can't say that 10 years from now something's not going to come out better. One great guy said, if an intelligent person said something is right, they're probably wrong. They're probably right. They're probably right. If it's possible, they're probably right. If it's impossible, they're probably wrong. Because who knows what the future will bring. But buy the most current technology, and it's going to stay current longer.
Yeah, and I think I would just add to that, Mark. I think it's a relevant and the right question, and I think it's been on the minds of a lot of retailers in the U.S. If you read more about ESLs, and we can do more one-on-one with a lot of our customers if they need it to be. This technology has been existing, not in this form and shape. I would definitely say this has been existing, or has been kind of been developing over the last 20 years or so, and it's been recently with the advent of I would say e-commerce channels that this has become a lot more prominent, not only in terms of your saving your operational costs, but also how can I be relevant in today's age of retail. Can I have the same pricing? Can I do promotions instantly in my store, and flash sales, and so on and so forth? How can I give personalized promotions when people are walking inside the store? And this has been a success in Europe. It's been picking up. It's been there for the last 20 years, not even picking up, I would say. But it's been recently that US. The advent of e-commerce, that's what I would pivot it at. The advent of e-commerce has pushed the US retailers to adopt this technology, to test this technology, to really not ignore. And I think it's becoming a louder noise, a lot more louder noise in the last 2 years or so, and then so on and so forth.
A great point there. There's something I didn't even think of some of those. So that's a really good point.
All right.
Looks like we're getting up on the top of the hour here. So if there's any other questions, get them, or you can always email later with any other questions as well.
Don't forget, we'll be sending you a link for scheduling a call with us for one-on-one with you and your team, and we'll be happy to take you through a couple scenarios and how to get you started.
Okay. Well, thanks for everybody's time. I know your time's valuable. I appreciate it, and hope to see you on the next webinar.